Trev and welcome to my blog. Welcome to another episode of Tips and Tricks. This time round we're going to talk about hammer forming. What is hammer forming? Well, hammer forming in its essence really is wrapping metal around wood, I would have said. I started using this quite a while ago actually, a long time ago, and it wasn't anything that anyone taught me, although lots of other people do the same kind of thing or a similar kind of thing. It's a little bit like sort of vinyl wrapping a piece of wood but with metal. What you're essentially doing is you're taking a sheet of steel, you're maybe partially forming it, and then the edges you can form around the steel so you can shrink things and stretch things and it takes on the shape of the wood underneath. I use this process in my Bedford with the opening side, so I made the side on the Bedford that opened up, and I used this. It was particularly useful for the water trough that I made to make the van weatherproof, so that if it rains it's got a nice water channel for the rain to pour into and take the water away rather than it running inside the van. And I made it very effectively. It fitted absolutely perfectly. And I also used it for making the rear wheel arches on my Bedford, and I also used it for the front wheel arches on my Bedford as well, and countless other projects in between. Okay, first things first, I made up a template using the side of the original wheel box, and I use this template to mark out the new side, and then I've laid my template over the top and I've drawn out two different profiled lips, so one's 10mm and the other one's 15. So the 15's along the straights and the 10mm are on the corner because the corners have got to be shrunk down more, so they need to be thinner. They need to be really a maximum of about 10mm. So I've got the two major components used in this build of this wheel box. We've got the top here and we've got the side. Really going to focus on the side in this video, making the lip, because we need a lip around here so that this lip can be spot welded around the edge of this top. I will be doing a video for sure on how I made the wheel box from start to finish, including how I put the beads in without distorting this panel, because I pre-stretched the panel before I put the bead in. So I'll definitely be putting a video of that on very soon. Next, I need to cut along this line, bringing it into the inner line as I come around the radius. We need to though retain as much as possible of the wider lip so that we can spot weld it along here, but we also need to shrink it just before the radius, because as I try and shrink it around the radius, this is the part that's going to cause the most amount of problems. So with the metal cut out nicely along both lines, my attention is next turned to the next stage of the process, which is making the wooden forming buck. I'm using some 18mm hardwood ply, and a little subtlety here guys, really pay attention to this because this will make a difference. Now I made this template up putting the old wheel box side on top of a piece of metal and drawing around it with my Sharpie, lifting it away and then cutting it out. Instantly this template becomes larger than it needs to be, because I've scribed around the outside of it and cut it around. Is now bigger than the wheel box was originally. Now if I put the template down on this ply and draw around it again, yet again it's going to be even bigger. And what will happen is, if you've got something that's got to be an exact fit, you will find that the two pieces don't fit together perfectly because you've made one piece too large. So what I always do at this stage is I've overlapped the wood very slightly, only by 0.5 millimeter or so along this bottom edge. I've then scribed around it with my Sharpie. So now I've got my line. I'm going to cut on the inside of the line, not the outside. So I cut in the inside of the line, and this will help to compensate for the extra size that I would have taken on in this template. And then when it goes to fit the top section, it's going to be closer to the proper size it should be, rather than making it larger twice. So I always give the buck a bit of a sand along the edges because of the jigsaw's always a bit wibbly wobbly. Perhaps best to use a bandsaw if you had one. Just checking the buck for fitment along our template so we can see any deviation. Try it around the other way as well. So this is the inside of the panel, and the lip's going to be formed up on this side. So what we need to do next is get our template, lay it down on top of the panel, scribe around the edge. We can then use this scribed edge to line up the buck. So that's going to sit in there like that. And I can line it up, bang in the right place, because I'm just inside of the Sharpie line. And then what I can do then is I can clamp it off with some grips, turn it around. So I'm drilling these holes to secure the panel to the buck. I'm using an 1/8 drill. I'm just going to use some basic self tappers to hold it to there. You see I'm doing it quite close to the centre of the panel. It'd be very tempting to put it on the outside, of course, because they'd be more effective on the outside to stop movement. But the problem is, then they'll get in the way of the dolly. So I've set the screws in such a position that the dolly won't get in the way of them. So the process of hammer forming the lip, no more complicated than getting the heaviest weight you can find. Absolutely love this bit of kit. Unfortunately, it's a bit tight around here, so I'm not going to be able to use it all the way around, especially in the corners. But the more weight you put on the panel, the less likely the panel is to rise up in the area you least want it to. What you want to do is you want the lip to shrink rather than the panel to rise up. One or the other is going to happen. So the harder you hold that down, the less likely it is to rise up, the more likely the lip will shrink. What you can do is do this rolling planishing method, where you planish along the top to get it to lie back down flat, and then keep hammering along the edge, rolling the hammer as you go down so that it tries to straighten out the tucks as much as possible. If you do get a tuck forming, then simply put a screwdriver under the tuck, lever it back up and start again. It'll do everything in its power to not go where you want it to. So you've just got to be really tenacious, keep at it, and you will find that things start looking better and better as you go along. It's the kind of thing that when you first start off, it looks awful and you think you're never going to get anywhere, but just keep at it and you'd be surprised at the end result, the kind of results that you can achieve in the end. I've planished the lip over as far as I want to take it for now, and it's come out as well as it could have done really. So what I'll do next is I'll just offer up the top section whilst the wood's still in, just to make sure that the fit is somewhere near. Yes, check that out. Isn't it looking great? It's suddenly looking so three-dimensional, especially with this piece stepped out as well. It fits really, really well. If I just pull that up slightly, we can see that it's looking pretty perfect. My main worry, of course, was the lengths. I mean, if the lengths are different, so if this is too long, say, I have the chance of it puckering up around there because it's just too long. And if it's too short, then these corners won't fit in the right place. The corners will be up this, and this is why I reduce the size of that template slightly. But if I push that up, we can see that that fits so nicely. I got a little bit of a I got a little bit of a funny thing going on here, but once I take the wooden buck from behind, I can soon planish that out, make that look a little bit nicer. But yeah, the fit is absolutely superb. I'm so pleased with that. So with a little bit of fettling with the old hammer and dolly, it's come out pretty good. I'm very pleased with the job. The only thing I would say is that if you're completely new to this kind of thing, then I would probably advise you to reduce the width of the lip around a radius to 8mm rather than 10, because it will be far easier for you to shrink it round to 8. What you can do if you wanted to weld it in this area and you'd reduced it to 8, you're probably not going to get a spot welder in there, but what you could do is put a little run or a few tacks of MIG from the inside around that corner, and that would look nice and tidy, and it would be just as strong as well to hold it in the corner if that's what you really wanted to do. I mean, looking at this, I could probably spot weld it pretty much all the way around, certainly up to here anyway, on the corners. I mean, even if that was just held with some sealer, it'd probably be still quite strong. So yeah, that essentially draws this video to a close. I'll just show you one more thing. I don't want to go off on another tangent and show you other things. I want to keep this on topic, this video. So all part of the current run of panels I'm making at the moment are these prehistoric mud catchers, I suppose you call them. They go up behind the front wheels, and the biggest challenge with these is they've got a step that goes in there on the panel. And of course it's got a lip all the way around as well, as you can probably see. So the first thing I did is make up our template as before, exactly the same procedure. So I made our template up, I've used the template then to make the wooden former, and then I've made our panel up, drawing around the template, made our panel up, and I've run this through the stepped bead roller. So bead roller step dies to put our step in the panel, and then I've cut these pieces of ply out, 3mm ply, and this will take up the step, and this will be simply bonded with some 2-pack epoxy glue onto our wooden former. So that'll be in there like that, wooden former on the top, couple of screws up from underneath, and then hammer formed all around the edge. Right, I'm going to get myself into trouble with the detail feds now. Just going to mention this quickly. So what I do sometimes is I just chop the workpiece. So this piece of scrap ply, a couple of screws through it, stops the workpiece from walking its way off the end of the table, and stops you from having to clamp it down so hard, and you can concentrate more on shrinking the lip, just putting the weight on, and you know it's going to stay where it is. There's multiple ways you could strap this down. Woodworking G clamps, my vice grip C clamps with some wood on the top, stop it from marking the surface. I'm also working on another clamp that I want to do with different dies set into the clamp that will do different, you know, different curves. I could have a different set of dies with a couple of pegs mounted to the tops of the dies, and then it'll be like a big lever action, locking out like a pair of mold grips, you know, this kind of locking mechanism on it with a huge lever on it, and I could put some real pressure on it and it wouldn't go anywhere then, and then I could just concentrate on shrinking the lip. So that's the sort of clamp I'm thinking of working on for future projects. So yeah, lots going on. Like I said in previous videos, do it your own way. If it works for you and the result's good, I just look at your results. If your results are good and you're happy with what you've produced, you haven't done it the wrong way, you've done it the best way you can do it. All finished, just removed it from the wooden former, just chased a couple of the corners up with a hammer and dolly just to make it look a bit more crisp. I'm really happy with how this has turned out, plenty good enough to go up underneath the wheel arch. I've just got to weld these couple of small holes up, and then it'll be ready for a couple of mounting holes to be drilled so it can attach to the van bodywork. But I'm not going to use this as a direct replica, as the holes may be in a slightly different place. So I'm just going to double check that on the van before I go and put those holes in. Actually, I see some of them elongated anyway, so yeah, so it's probably not a perfect fit whatever happens. Yeah, happy with that. It's very rigid now, and of course the beauty of what I've done here is I've made it out of one section of steel. Haven't had to make it out of a couple of sections because of this step, or I haven't had to weld this lip on all the way around or anything silly like that. So it's yeah, it's nice. It's one piece. It's a nice replica of the old panel, and I know it's going to fit well. This step, of course, was made with a bead roller, but what you could have done, or what I could have done, is I could have actually pressed this in with a homemade pressing tool. But we'll talk more about pressing tools in another video that I'm going to make shortly, about how you can make your own pressed steel panels. So that's something else interesting that's going to be coming along. At some stage I may fit in another couple of videos before I do that one, for reasons I can't go into right now. The processes I've showed you so far have all been on outside curves pretty much. And it is possible to do inside curves. The only thing that is different when you're doing an inside curve is that you are stretching the material rather than shrinking it, and in a way it's kind of easier to stretch it than it is to shrink it. And also where it lifts up on the top of the panel when you're trying to shrink it, it actually gets tighter to the wooden former underneath when you're doing an inside curve. The tooling needed is slightly different because you cannot use just a flat planishing hammer like I've used here. You can use things like a forming bat. Because you're stretching it, you can get away with using some softer tools actually. So you could use a forming bat, or you could even use a blocking hammer, something that's got to be curved. If you just use something that's flat, then you're not going to get that lovely curved effect inside, because the panel edges will ground out and just knock horrible notches into the surface of the steel. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. I think I'm going to do another one on hammer forming. I'm going to show you something that I did not too long ago actually. It's something that foxed me for a long time. You'll often see panels on cars that look essentially straight, and then when you look along them they're actually got a tiny bit of curve in. Real hard thing to make, and you can utilise a hammer forming technique to make those kinds of panels. So I think that's going to be a future video for sure. So the hammer competition. Who won the hammer from the last blog? All I asked you was what colour was my van originally, and I'll take either blue and green, or blue or green, because of course it was blue on the inside, green on the outside. So I'll take either answer. Thanks to those who sent me the details of a website that'll pick a winner at random, so I'll run that now. Okay, so who was the winner of the competition? Yes! So Jerry, all you've got to do is email me your address and I'll post this hammer off to you. My email address is in the video description. I'll post you this beautiful planishing hammer, the exact same one that was in the video that you entered for to win this very hammer. I'll send you the actual hammer. Also, congratulations to Stephen Watson who won the last hammer. Quick picture of Stephen. So another hammer. I haven't got many of these left, guys. I only bought a few. I'm really sorry. Thanks to all those people that have asked if they can buy one, but literally I just bought a tiny little job lot of these. I can't get the supplier to commit to providing me with these hammers, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to offer these up for sale and then leave the video on and then I can't get the hammers anymore, and 6 months later I've still got people badgering me to buy one and I can't buy them anymore. I think you appreciate what I'm saying. You've got to kind of think ahead when you're making these videos, because somebody be watching this in 6 months time and they'll still be asking me you know, to provide them with a hammer, and I won't be able to do that anymore. So that's why I'm not offering these for sale. So like I say, just a couple left. So who wants to win this beautiful hammer? All you've got to do is answer the question, what's the colour, or the new colour, of my Bedford wheels? It's within my videos somewhere. A little bit more of a tricky question to answer, I would have said. So they're the new colour that the Bedford wheels are going to be. just answer that question in the comments section and you'll be picked at random. In answer to your question, guys, the people that keep asking me, almost on a daily basis in fact, is what's happened to part 20 of the Bedford CA van. Well, don't worry guys, I haven't given up on it. It's a massive job, and I can't remember whether I said, or just such a long time ago now, but I decided to wrap it up into 20 parts. I was getting a lot of flack about producing too many parts, which I should have completely ignored, but you know, once you've set something in motion, you might as well see it through. So it's just going to be a 20 part of that one. And if you look back through my tips and tricks, particularly from say number 1 to number 13, then a lot of those videos show the progress of the van. That's kind of how I decided to do it. Another thing that people keep asking me about is the Ferrari replica, the Ferrari GTO 250 GTO replica. Unfortunately, the guy that owns that, my boss, has decided to shelve the project because he's just got too much on. He also owns the Little Alpha, and the Little Alpha also that keeps being asked about is I've got enough footage now to put a part 2 on that. I'll probably only do 3 parts or 4 parts to the Alpha. So yeah, so it'll just be an overview. I won't be able to really show you what we did because it's so much harder to make videos at work because we're cracking on and getting the work done. I can't stand there presenting videos while I'm at work, you know. I might be able to stick the camera on the side and aim it in my direction while I do something, but it's really, really hard to do a video at work and present it properly. It's virtually impossible in fact, and the editing you wouldn't believe. Thanks very much to all those that have sent me a donation to help me buy the spot welder that I just give you a quick video on not that long ago. Thanks very much guys, really appreciated it. The next bit of kit I'm saving up for is going to be a bit more expensive than that because that's probably the cheapest piece of kit I could buy that I needed. So I thought I'd get on and buy that fast just to show you guys that, you know, I'm putting the money to good use. And in the following months I really hope to show you what that tool can do. And not only that, I want to also show you other things that you might not be aware that it does, and I can add on things to it, make a few adjustments, make some other tools that work alongside it. That's what I really want to do. Like I say, thanks for your donations, really appreciated. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.